Hello, fellow YouTubers and other subs. On my background, I have the Texas flag because I am from Texas, and I will be doing the Texas Pledge soon. I also have notes on Purate group number with valence electrons for chemistry, in case you care about that stuff. I'm going to respond to a listener email that I got. It's actually a chain of emails, and thought it's a pretty interesting viewpoint on what my philosophy is on investing and also how I might be able to help this person and their thoughts on investing. All right, here's the email. I did get permission from the person to actually make a video about this, so I just wanted to go into a little more detail than what I sent him personally. Here it says, Mr. Kaminsky, I'm a teacher and very much appreciate your videos. Thank you very much. I have a lot of other subscribers that are dividend investors or other investors, but I definitely appreciate other teachers that are watching this channel as well. However, I'm curious where you put the money in the Roth IRA account. It looks like you put it in an S&P dividend. Are there any other funds or ETFs you typically use? And thank you for your question. If any of you have any questions for me, you could email me at lancekaminsky@gmail.com. Or if you have a quicker question, you can leave a comment down below any of the videos that you make. All right, where do I put my money in the Roth IRA account? So if you go to Seeking Alpha, I like this because you could actually show your whole portfolio and what funds you own. Over here in blue are the list of the different ETFs I own. I own ETFs because they're much more diversified than individual stocks, although some of these are actual the ETFs that don't have a lot of funds necessarily in them. So I own VNQ, which is a large cap REIT fund. They own real estate, so they buy commercial or residential properties, loan them out to others. VEA is an international large cap value/blend fund. RYLD is a covered call ETF. Essentially what they do is they buy small cap blend funds and then they write a covered call to get monthly income through dividends. And this one pays about 8% in dividends per year, but they actually pay per month. So you're getting a little under 1% per month in whatever money you put in. SPHD is a fund that has fairly high dividends, about 4%. It also pays monthly, and it tracks mostly the S&P 500, but it takes the 50 biggest stocks from the S&P 500 based on dividend, and then it goes with the low volatility, the ones that don't dramatically move up and down. Also have DLS, that is a international small cap value fund. This is one of the only funds that I could see with a relatively cheap expense ratio, so 0.55. It's not necessarily the lowest ever, but Vanguard doesn't offer this particular account for international small value, so I decided to go with them. EFAS is an international high dividend fund. They own about 30% in finance and banking. They pay about a 6% monthly dividend. KBWI, I just entered a few $1,000s into a small cap REIT fund. I did previous videos on why I bought KBWI in terms of them possibly being a little cheaper than V&Q, the big ones. And my biggest fund is SLYV, that is US small cap value ETF. This one has the lowest dividends of all of them, but I have the most in my holdings on it because over long periods of time, the small cap value funds should outperform the market by a few percent. Again, very long periods of time here. So those are all my funds are. And I did previous videos on my current portfolio, how I'm changing my percentages. Essentially, I have about 30% in this and then 10% in the rest, within about 2 or 3% of those funds. So that's where I own my funds. Back to the question. It looks like I put in an S&P dividend. The SPHD fund is a pretty high dividend. That's like the S&P 500. It is a little bit more focused on higher paying dividend companies, however. The S&P dividend is, the S&P 500 is paying about 2% dividends. The SPHD fund that I have right here pays about 4% in dividends. So I'm getting almost twice as much money in dividends compared to the S&P 500. So it is a little bit more dividend focused. This one also pays monthly, and the reason why I want some monthly dividends is I could see my dividends coming in much more frequently than the quarterly dividends. I did make a recent video on my September dividends, and there were a lot more in quarterlies there. But I used to have pretty much all of my funds in quarterly dividends, and now I have quite a few in monthly. And psychologically, I think it's helping me because it's encouraging me to invest more every month because I'm going to be collecting extra dividends each month instead of every 3 months. Is there any other ETFs I typically use? So I already answered that one. We had an email chain going. So second email. Awesome. They look very diversified and better than a target date fund or generic ETF. Maybe better than a target date fund or generic. It's hard to say. I'm not a predictor of what's going to happen in the future. I like my particular funds because, yes, they are very diversified. I have a lot in large and small, a lot of blend and value, and US and international. So a target date fund will actually give you most of that diversification as well. And it actually would be a little bit cheaper in the expense ratios. But I like, again, my diversification because a lot of them do pay monthly, and I like the higher dividend payments. Do you focus more on dividends? In a way, yes. Is there any method to the madness? Again, the psychological impact of getting dividends, I'm enjoying more. And I feel in the last 6 months or so, I've been putting more in dividends, paying stocks, than if I wasn't getting dividends. It's encouraging me, even if it's another $1 or $2 extra a month over long periods of time, that will add up. And sure, I would be getting almost the same amount if I bought in the quarterly dividends, but I wouldn't see these dividends come in for another 3 months. So that is my method to the madness in terms of getting those monthly dividends instead of the quarterlies. In the last email, I did ask him if it was okay to use his emails in this video. So he said, I don't mind at all, appreciate your help. I've taught science, high school science for 18 years. Good job with that. Currently in my 13th year of high school science in Texas. I also taught 1 year in New York State. That was in a private school. So it's kind of my 14th year. Things have exponentially gotten worse these past few years. I've gotten motivated to chart an effective path for retirement. Well, I'm sorry that that's been happening. Luckily, I'm in a very supportive school district where we have a lot of resources. Our administration is, in general, leans more towards us in terms of things that we want. We have flexible schedules. We have a lot of different avenues to teach. It's not necessarily make sure that you're teaching this one way or another. We do a lot of blended learning, so we do a little more lab work in class, and we do more online reviews and videos for homework and outside work. Again, I'm fortunate that you're feeling this way in terms of getting exponentially worse. I guess a few of the recommendations I could give is still be a good teacher. Only you know if you're teaching well or not. Other people could give advice about how you're doing, but in the end, it's really up to you. There's days that I don't necessarily teach a good topic as well, and I know I could do better. So hopefully that'll be some motivation to do that. If it's your actual school districts with students or admin, you might want to consider going to a different district possibly. Or if you're just done with this career, go to a different career possibly. I've gotten motivated to chart an effective path for retirement. For this statement, the reason why I've been doing this channel, a few main reasons. Nope, gotta do 4,000 steps today. Sidebar. Anyway, to chart an effective path for retirement, my two main reasons why I'm doing these particular videos is one, to help other teachers with their finances, and also to show my own path for retirement. So there's many different avenues you could go into for how to chart your path for retirement. I recommend to figure out what your pension would be if you retired today, or figure out what your pension will be if you retire a certain number of years down the road. So in Texas, for instance, you get 2.3% times the number of years you work, but in other states, those percentages and numbers are different. So you should, again, if you're going on a big journey, you should know where you are, at least right now. So figure out what your pension would be, maybe other sources of income that are current, and then look for different avenues to increase that number. So I'm doing mostly dividend paying stocks in a Roth IRA, so the tax liabilities are very minimal in the future, pretty much nothing. I'm paying the taxes now. You could get dividend paying stocks. You could keep it as simple as saying, I like the target date retirement funds, or you could lean more on the higher paying dividend stocks like I do. You could do individual stocks instead of ETFs, which a lot of other subscribers to my channel are doing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Finding whatever method you feel is best for your situation is one of the most important things. I'm recommending most teachers to simply do a target date retirement fund at first, and then get more knowledge and experience about what type of funds and ways you're going to go. You may not even necessarily want to do the stock market. Maybe you save up enough to buy a rental home, or you make a side business with tutoring or other jobs or other businesses similar to the job you have. So finding many different sources of income, I think, is always very helpful instead of just staying on one particular source. All right, so hopefully that answered your question. If you have any other questions and you'd like me to make a video on it, please again leave a comment down below or email me at lancekaminsky@gmail.com. Thank you and have a great day, guys.